Hey friends, welcome back to the Laylee Amati podcast. Today, I am being joined by Haylee Gaffin, who is actually our podcast producer and one of my dear friends. I'm so excited. Welcome back, Haylee, because you've been on the show before.
I have. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm excited to have you. Guys, this chat is literally so spontaneous, and it is all about kind of like your responsibility as an educator who specifically is a podcast host. Now, if you're not a podcast host, I want you to keep listening because a lot of these lessons that we're going to be talking about are applicable to you in leadership, period. I'm going to have to tell the story of how this episode has come to fruition and why we decided to record it. And I will get into that in just a second. But to give you an overview, I feel like we're going to be talking a lot about reputation, relationships, responsibilities as a leader, and how to navigate that well and how to make sure that you're doing your job as the person in charge. Is that a good way to put that, Haylee?
Yeah. And I think even if you're not a podcast host, I think if you're a podcast guest, this is also a good episode for you to listen to because we are diving into the how you as the guest can navigate the situation. Okay. Well, let's get into it.
No, I love that. You're totally, 100%. So, okay, backstory, y'all. This is the tea. I feel like I'm talking to all of our friends right now. This is the tea. So I have been podcasting as a host for 5 years.
I think this is 6. This will be 6 years.
We're in year 6. That's a long ass time. Okay. Beyond that, I have been a podcast guest for about 10 years. So that's a long time. And I say that because in those years, I have never experienced what I'm about to tell you happened to me. And it has happened twice within 4 to 6 weeks now. And I am blown away. So essentially what's happened is I have been approached to be a guest on 2 different podcasts, 2 different hosts. They have no relation to one another. They do not know one another, and they do not know me. They pitched me to come on their show. Their team communicated with my team, meaning I never spoke directly to the host before the interview. Now, that part is not uncommon. What is uncommon is what happened next. So we get it all together. I have my team. My team knows my topics. They know what I speak on. They know what I want to be on podcasts for. They know what I'm comfortable going on podcasts for. And they did their job in communicating said things to these podcast hosts and their team. In both situations, on the day of the podcast, the host has come in not knowing the topic we're discussing, not having reached out to me to confirm any kind of topic or send any kind of prep questions, which, by the way, I personally did not see as a red flag at the time because I don't do prep questions for my podcast. Y'all who are listening, if you've been around here for a long time, I love to keep things conversational. The concept of my podcast is that I want it to be friends talking about business and getting the real deal. So I like a go with the flow. I don't need prep questions. However, in this situation, these hosts came in not knowing what we were talking about and realized within the first 5 minutes of talking to me that the topic I speak on or topics that I speak on either don't make sense for their audience or are a conflict of interest with their partners, whoever their partners are. And so they have had to do the really awkward and very, very, very uncomfortable thing of telling me that day, hey, do you mind if I circle back and maybe we record this another day? Guys, I was livid. I don't get angry or upset very often. And in fact, I was really kind. And I said, I get it. Things happen. However, I take time out of my schedule, my day to get ready, to prep, to block off time. I block off time before and after podcast interviews. So I was ready to go. These hosts were not. And when they ask, can we circle back and have you back later? My answer is yes. However, it's actually not a yes. I say yes to them to be kind and to be nice and to be polite. But the second they reach back, there is no way I'm going on their podcast now. And listen, I'm not saying I'm a huge deal that needs to be oh, well, I'm not going. But it's one of those things where it's the relationship is now. Well, let's talk about this. Okay. So Haylee, what are your, as a podcast producer and as somebody who teaches potential podcast hosts and guests, what I called you after both of these. Tell us your thoughts.
Okay, my first thought, well, I probably have 100 that I could go through, so I'm going to go with like the top 5. My initial thought is there is a huge disconnect between either the person that is booking and the host, or the host and the goals of their show. Like they're just not thinking about them, because a lot of times when you are working with someone as a host who is booking people for your show, you are supposed to tell them the types of people that you want on your show. And that could be happening. Absolutely. It could be that it wasn't the host's fault. It was the person booking. But at the same time, the second that this happens and you realize like, okay, there was a miscommunication, that's when an entire overhaul of this entire process needs to happen. Maybe that's, oh, I need to look at the guest pitch list prior to any pitches going out. Like I've done this work for people. And when we started to realize like, oh, the host has a different idea of what this means versus what I interpreted it as, that's when we started doing a pitch review. Like before I ever sent a pitch, it was reviewed by the host.
Yeah.
Now, with that comes the research. Like you may just give a name to a host and they say, oh, I know that person, which is probably what happened in your situation of, oh yeah, she was a photographer. She worked in this industry. I saw her speak 10 years ago or 8 years ago at this conference, and let's have her on the show, not knowing where you are now in business or where you've pivoted to. And then they get on the call and that's what's happened. So like, that's the biggest piece, is there is a disconnect between the goal of the show and the host and the systems that get you to the pitch of the wrong person.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny because like when you said it might not have been the host's fault, my thought is like, as a leader, it's always your fault. Because there were probably 3 touch points that host should have taken between myself getting like a guest getting pitched and the guest getting to the day of the interview. That to me told me that they didn't even look at their calendar or say, you know, oh, what am I talking to this? But like for me, I might not send prep questions because I want it to feel organic, but that doesn't mean I don't have an idea of where I want every conversation to go. I know where I want the conversation to go. I'm open to shifting and pivoting, but I know about the guest. At least I know about them to know what they want to talk about. Like I have a topic. So I'm like, what are the hosts doing and why they're outsourcing almost too much at this point, or they're not outsourcing well. So like, what would you, knowing that, like, in your opinion, what are the steps that they can take to like clean up these systems? And also, wait, I want to know that, but first, before we talk about that, I want to know, in your opinion, because this was like my thought process. I was like, reputation and relationships are everything in this industry. Like to me, what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you agree or disagree that that's something that's like more important to me than the outcome of the podcast interview, to where I would have, if that had happened to me, like let's say I did drop the ball and I wasn't prepared, if I had somebody sitting in my riverside and they're like looking at me and I'm like, what are we talking about? I would find something to talk with them about.
Yeah. In my process and how I would have handled it, I probably wouldn't have said this isn't a good fit or this doesn't align. Instead, I would have just gone through with the conversation. And if it didn't fit long-term for the podcast, that's when you go back and you say, you know, I so appreciate this. After reviewing I didn't think it was a great fit for my show.
Yeah.
Like the interview didn't hit. I've had clients who in the past have gone back to their guests and said, hey, you know, I really expected us to go this direction and I don't really feel like we ever got there. Mm-hmm. Well, this would be a different situation, but would you like to re-record the same topic, but I need to go deeper?
Yeah. Because
the last thing you want to do is put something on your show that's not going to serve your audience. It's not the purpose of what you went into the conversation with. Yeah. So that's how I would have handled it. I would have just gone through with the conversation. And as a good host and as a good guest, especially if you've done this for a while or you're trying to get to a place where you can do this, you can always pivot your conversation to align with that audience.
Yeah.
You know, like I know you had mentioned that when you first looked at one of the podcasts that you were like, is this really the right fit for me?
Right.
And your team went back and said, like, she talks about this, and it's not really in the same industry. And they said, yeah,
They were
let's
like,
do
we
it.
still want to do it. And I was like, okay. But I knew in the back of my mind, like I might have to take it elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's how I would have approached it. The other thing, like when you first text me, my immediate thought was it a good fit for you? If you're not a good fit for them, was it a good fit for you?
And see, it's interesting because it was, and
Yeah.
I think it is in general, just because of the nature of my work.
Right. Because they're
But it
so
might not be for every guest, for sure.
Yeah. But I think too, when it comes to that reputation aspect of it, you have to be thinking about this no matter what if you're going to have guests on your show. Like on my podcast, I don't do a ton of guest interviews.
Mhm.
And a small portion of that is I have seen the wrong guest come on a great show and the show get in a little bit of hate for it.
Yeah.
Because when you're lending your platform to someone else, you really have to be intentional about, do I want to lend my platform to this person? Do they align with me? Do I like how they run their business? Do I agree with what they teach? And not that you have to always agree. Like it's nice to be pushed and to consider other things on your show
Mm-hmm.
and for your listeners and your audience. But at the end of the day, is this someone you actually want to align with? And when you're so far removed from that process and you have no idea who is even coming on your show,
Yeah.
that's long gone.
I
Like
love
that
that
is
you
long
said
gone.
that. Yes, because I think about like when we did the compilation series and for all the speakers. So if you guys are listening, you're like, what is she talking about? I did like interviews with many event hosts in the creative industry for my course, Sought After Speaker System. And then we did like compilations for the podcast. And obviously I'm not going to agree with 100% of what everybody's saying, but I wanted to provide that to my audience. But before I put these things out in public, if it's something that's like insanely off base, I'm not going to publish it. But I would never in the middle of an interview or at the beginning of an interview be like, no. I'm like, how are you building relationships here? How are you want to consider every interaction you have as a leader and educate. This is why I said it's not just for podcast hosts, right? Like these are interactions that now this is the first time I'm meeting these hosts and these industry leaders or growing industry leaders. And now that's what I have in my mind is that they were not prepared. They didn't know how to pivot. It was kind of like, honestly, it was pretty rude to like take somebody's time and then just like be like, thanks.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I'm so mad.
I think you have valid reason. So here's my message to if you're one of those hosts and you're listening and you're like, shit. Here's my message to you. I think there is room to never let it happen again. I do. Like we all learn, we make mistakes, we iterate our processes. That's like the best way 100%. To put it. I can't sit here and be like, oh, I've never made a mistake on my podcast or I've never, we all
I've had the wrong people on. I've made so many mistakes.
I could not a single client I've ever had has done it perfect. And that's fine. Like that's the point too. But if I were to like give you advice, I have like 4 areas that I think immediate action needs to happen. And number one is you become the approval person for your podcast pitch list. Before they are ever contacted, you need to know, why are we pitching this person? What are we pitching them about? And are they a good fit? Why are they a good fit?
Yeah.
The second is like do quarterly check-ins with whoever it is that's pitching for you. Because if you hired someone a year ago to start this process, how far have you come? Yeah. How far have your goals come? Do they still align? Like, are you attracting the right people onto your show to listen to someone to talk about something you would have talked about a year ago, but not anymore? So having those check-ins and then having clear criteria of yes, no, maybe. Like, would this person be a good fit? The person that's choosing the people should immediately be able to say yes, no, maybe, come to you with that list of, here's people that either applied for the show, yes, no, maybe. Here's people I come up with, yes, maybe.
Yeah.
That type of thing. And then a very light pre-interview research understanding to go back to that. Like, why are we even considering them for the show? Should we talk about this topic or this
What are we
topic?
talking about? You need to know what you're talking about before
Yeah.
you get on a call. Period.
Yes.
And I like that
yeah.
I like that you said light research. Like it doesn't, I don't expect somebody to know my life story.
Mhm.
Light research is for anything. Like if they had taken 10 minutes.
Accurate. And again, like you said, it should not be the second you get on the call is when you're doing the research of who is this person. And I know you're not let me go in with questions and an outline. I am. I have to be like,
yeah, you have to know your own vibe,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
And I have a lot of clients that an outline and question scares them. It limits them. It constricts them and they just don't feel like it's the right fit for their show. But then there's others that do. And there's different guests too. There are guests that are going to be like, hey, where's my outline? Where's my questions? And I think also being able to communicate that of like, hey, we don't do that. Or we do. I have this research, but we're just going in. Here's the topic at least that we're going to cover. But just know that it's very conversational based, that type of thing. So
yeah,
definitely.
I mean, I even would say like being a good host to me, maybe because I'm like, I love being a really good, safe host that people feel comfortable with. If they need questions, even though I don't read questions like a robot, I will write questions for them if they want it. But I'm still also communicating with them at least once, even if it's an automated reminder email that comes from my inbox, not my assistant, not my booking manager. Like, not somebody on my team. It's coming from me. So when they hit reply, now it's me and them, even if it wasn't. So like there's a way to have systems, right? Like, but then still be the personal touch of I'm in the loop because I'm the one that has to talk to you.
Yeah. And there's so many different opinions on this of like, oh, I don't want to hear from the host. Like that tells me their team's not big enough. And why would I be on that podcast? But then there's also the other of like, I don't want to be on a podcast of someone whose team member is the one handling it and I have no personal communication. It's across the board. Like I can't sit here and tell you there is a right way and a wrong way to do it.
Right.
The only way to do it is just to be aware of what's going on in your podcast. And like for a long time, our team had this motto of like, we can do as much as you want for your podcast so that you only have to hit record. And there's beauty in that. There's beauty in outsourcing as much as you possibly can. I also know that my clients, if they are completely removed from their podcast, it's not going to succeed. They're not going to have any indication of what content should I be talking about on my show? Who should I have as a guest? Like, I won't let my clients be that far removed because, and we don't do podcast pitching for all of our clients, to be completely honest with you and transparent, because it is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that disconnect of if you're not talking to me on a monthly basis or even a weekly basis, I don't know that I'm going to get the right people for you. So like that's something to consider.
For sure. And I think it's one of those things where I don't want anybody listening to feel like they can't systematize or outsource a lot of the admin work and a lot of the communication. All of that can still be done. And I agree that there's like no right or wrong way to set up who is doing what until it gets to the point of I think of podcasters as speakers. And as a speaking coach, I would never let a speaking client of mine take a stage unprepared. And to me, every time this mic is on and every time I sit in front of this camera, that's my stage for the day. And if I'm not prepared, I'm not doing my job. And it reflects poorly on me during the new relationship I'm trying to build. It reflects poorly on me with my reputation because then that guest, you think people are just going to be like, okay, and then just not tell anybody? People are going to say, have you heard of this podcast? Like I'm in this education industry. So all the time people are going to say, this person, what? I'm just going to say, I've had people apply to speak on my stage who have now done this. And I'm like, well, If I can't trust you to know what we're talking about, why would I put you on stage in front of 100 people who paid to come to my conference? Like, that's not me doing my job well. And like, that's not me taking care of my audience well.
Yeah.
So you have to take care of your audience well and your guests. That's why it's called podcast host and podcast guest. Like, what would a good hostess do? Would you welcome somebody into your living room and not know their name? Like, would you have a dinner party for people and not know if they were gluten-free? Do you know what I mean? Like, be a host.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I really actually like that analogy. And it goes back to like you're talking about it being a networking opportunity. Like so many of my clients start their podcasts for the connections that it builds. And you have to think of it like, okay, I'm going into this to build this connection. Mm-hmm. If I connect with them, I'm getting into their network. So if they love me, if they love me, they're going to tell their friends they love me and their friends should come on my podcast. But if they get on there and they hate you, you are losing out on all of their connections. Yeah. And like you said, it's not that you're going to go and blast people online, but the second one of your coaching clients comes to you and says, hey, I got this opportunity to be on this podcast. Should I do it? Your first instinct is going to say, go for it, but know that this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Or it could happen.
Yeah, 100%. I'm never going to put somebody on blast for making a mistake. But I think also a big part, and I wanted to talk about this too, so I'm glad we're taking it this way, but a question I had for you, because I've thought a lot about this after, obviously, clearly I thought a lot about it after, but I was like, okay, if I was to make this mistake, how could I make it right? Mm-hmm. I already talked about making the pivot, but maybe you're somebody that gets easily over. Like, here's the thing. I want everybody listening to know that we are not sitting here to bash or like to throw shade. It's truly like, how can I make this a learning opportunity? So for me, I'm thinking these two hosts happened to make the same mistake, handled it a little differently, both handled it, in my opinion, wrong. After that, if it was me and I was overwhelmed and I didn't know how to pivot on the spot, I would send an apology email. I'd maybe like send a little something. Like, I'm not saying you have to like send some, but like they took an hour and a half of my time from my day. So if it was me and I made that mistake, I would send something, whether it be an email just saying like, I'm so sorry again. If there's anything I can do for you, I would love to be able to do whatever for you. Or like, if there's anything I can do for your audience, like a give. Doesn't have to be like a gift card. It could literally just be like an ask, or I mean like an offer of giving something, and also just apologizing again. I didn't hear from either one of them again. And I know that one of them, I did actually get a DM from one of them. It was like, I'm still thinking about it. And I was like, you can think all you want. I'm not coming back. Cause I just feel like there's professional ways to handle this. Do you agree with that? Or do you think that's like overkill? Cause sometimes I am overkill as a host.
I think there's a lot of us that just want to like go when something like this happens, go and pull the sheets over our head and like not think about it. And we're like, maybe they'll just forget. Yeah. Maybe I never have to see them again.
Never forget. Yeah.
And it's like, what happens when you do something really embarrassing in your life? Like you just kind of hope it goes away. But at the same time, like you can get so much further in your life with an apology. And I know that we are living in a world where they're like, don't apologize for if you did wrong, you need to apologize. Like, I don't get behind that message of like, stop apologizing. I don't want to like,
no, I think if you mess up, it's taking responsibility.
Like, take the responsibility.
Doormat. Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. Just take the responsibility of what you did. And you may still you may even after the apology email say, or believe that it's not really your fault. You can blame whoever it is in your world that it's their fault, but it still reflects on you.
It's your name and your face and
you
your voice.
Have to be the one that owns that mistake. It's just like if a team member messes up an edit, my client does not care that it was my team member. They care that it was me. Like that's all that matters. And
they're not mad at Susie Q. They're mad at Gaffin Creative.
Right. Yeah. So I have to train my team members to do right by my clients because if they're not doing right by my clients, then I'm not doing right by them. Just as a host, if your coordinator or pitching PR person is not doing right by you, you're not doing right by yourself. So it all goes back to, again, how much of it are you outsourcing? Are you training the right people? And do you have a system that makes sense for you?
Yeah.
But also, have you communicated clearly what that looks like for you? And again, going back to I would have just had the conversation.
Mhm.
I wouldn't have ended it. Like,
Yeah.
if
Same, 100%. I'd just be like, what? Well, let's talk about
Yeah.
your favorite show.
Yeah. Like, you can find a way to make it work. And I mean, I've definitely had clients that didn't air episodes that they recorded.
Yeah.
They, for one
I've held
reason or
that. Yeah,
another.
I've held episodes that don't make sense necessarily, or like
Yeah.
use them in different ways, or I've offered that audio to the guest to be like, if you want to publish it, you can. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many ways to take this.
Very rarely, though, is it like, this wasn't a good fit for my audience. A lot of times it's the guest wasn't a great guest, or they
Yes.
didn't interview, or they didn't get to the point, or they, it would not serve my audience. It wasn't that the conversation.
And that's like not on
wasn't.
you as the host, right? That's like the risk you take with any guest.
Yeah. And I think there's a balance of like, the host is responsible for so much of guiding and leading the conversation and knowing where it's going to go. But the guest also has to be talented enough. And that also comes back to that vetting process of, have you heard them on a show? How do they speak?
Mhm.
Like, but at any time you can also get someone on a really bad day. And you're just like,
they could be tired or off, or like maybe they're me and they didn't take their Adderall. Like, you just don't know. Yeah.
So, there's a million reasons that an episode may not air, but I know you didn't share like each individual experience very detailed. The way one of the hosts approached you, in my opinion, was rude and discredited them.
You can say it. Like, I don't,
Well, of them just like almost making it to where you're not a good fit for our audience.
Yes.
And I don't.
They said that I was a good fit for them, but not for their audience. And I was like, you pitched me. Also, here's the other thing, you guys, as a reminder, these were not me pitching to be a guest. Like, I didn't apply. I didn't feel it. Like, it was a cold pitch to me to come onto their show, which is even worse because I typically don't take it. Like Haylee said, Haylee asked, was it a good fit for you? I don't say yes to every pitch I get because it's not a good fit for me sometimes. Yeah. And I don't have an hour and a half to give of my day all the time.
It goes back to that, like, learning a lesson of how can I fix this? How can I correct it? And I have an example of this, not necessarily with being a guest, but I went through a phase where I was pitching people for me to be a guest on their show.
Yes.
And I was getting so
like pissed. You were wanting to go on.
Yeah, I was wanting to go on their show. And I was getting so pissed off when they would not respond. Like, there was no denial, there was no yes, there was nothing. And it was just ghosting. And I was like, okay, did they get it? Like, I was getting pissed off because I don't want to bother the crap out of them, but I also want to know, like, am I wasting my time following up?
Yeah.
So I got pissed and I was like, why do people not respond? And then I looked in my inbox at my folder called potential podcast guests with 450 emails of people who had pitched me where I did not respond.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's why. So, because we're busy. So what I ended up doing was I made email templates for it. And like now ChatGPT exists. This was pre-ChatGPT, but I made email templates of like, why you're not a good fit.
ChatGPT exists, but do you sell these?
Yeah, I sell these.
Okay, y'all need to go buy them. I'm sorry. Like, I know you love a ChatGPT, and like
I do.
but I don't. So I'm still like, I would buy those.
But it's like email templates of like, you're not a great fit for my audience.
Yeah.
This isn't a great topic for us. I also have one that's like, this was a really bad pitch. Here's how you should pitch instead. Like that type of thing. And I just decided, you know what? I'm going to change the industry because I'm sick of this and I'm part of the problem. So if you're like, okay, but does it really matter? Yes, it does, because how you are treating your guests who then go and create a podcast and do the same to their guests. Like they're learning from the experiences they've had on other shows.
It is such a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Y'all, this is not, I'm going to ask Haylee something, but I want to preface this by saying this is not sponsored. She's not paying me to say this, but I want to talk about how people who are overwhelmed with the thought of wanting to start a podcast, because so many of my clients as speakers want to be podcast hosts and or guests and or start their own YouTube show or whatever. And I feel like this makes it sound like it takes a million years to prep for every episode, but you have come out with something recently that I'm extremely impressed with. And I want you to talk about it because if this existed 6 years ago when I started, I would have been like, oh, it's so much more doable to have a podcast knowing that this part was handled. So tell us about your GPT situation. Also, y'all, I am not an AI user and even I can use this well. So tell us about it.
Yes. So it's actually funny because I had built this months and months ago before any of this happened with Laylee. And the second time it happened, I was like,
send them a link. Do you have an affiliate? I'm just kidding. I'm going to be like, listen, go shop this.
The second time it happened, I was like, literally, this just reiterates why I built this thing.
It's needed.
Yes. So I was in a role where I had to do research on guests and it was taking up so much time. And I was like, okay, I'm doing this research and then they're getting denied. Like, not everyone's a good fit for the show. So I was like, I'm going to see if I can use ChatGPT to kind of build out what I need in order to, one, pitch it to the host of the show, but two, pitch the guest and like find the right topic for the guest. And then three, develop all the interview questions. So I built a custom GPT that does all of those things. It helps you with that like pre-pitch planning or research where if you, or this could be like, I'm not outsourcing this. I'm doing it myself, or you could get it for a team member for them to use.
Yes.
So it would be basically what you do is you enter the name of the person that you want to pitch. It's as simple as that. It gives you everything you need. Why they're a good fit for your show, specifically if you're a business podcast, why they'd be a good fit. And it's almost like ChatGPT is telling you or trying to convince you of why you should have them on the show. Yeah. It helps you understand like what topics they're really known for. And then you can talk through like which topic I should, or if you're going into this with here's a topic I want to talk about. Why is this topic good for my show? Mm-hmm. And it'll tell you like, it's almost like it's doing the research. It is your assistant. It is telling you everything.
It's like a literal research assistant, it sounds like. Yes. And when I saw it, I think what's interesting is when I saw it, because I'm somebody who, again, you guys, like I'm not really like pulled in by the use of AI the way that a lot of people are right now. And if you are, that's awesome. This is definitely for you. If you're like me and you're like, I'm like 80. I just want to like figure it out myself. When you showed me an example on my own, like you used me as an example in front of me, I was blown away because to me, it's like, it was truly pulling things that made sense because it was my own. So I knew exactly like, oh, that hit the nail on the head. And I think it's the way, again, I don't know anything about AI, but whatever magic you did to make that work, like, I think it's worth its weight in gold. In fact, I probably think you should raise the price. So if you guys want it, go get it now, but like, not to be like unsolicited coach here, but like, it just, I feel like it'll save people so much time and like energy and also overwhelm because you can give it to an assistant and then that assistant basically has a free assistant working under them. It's amazing.
Yeah. And it will save them and you so much time. And I think what's nice about it is like, it's so easy to get sucked into a Google hole of trying to find everything, but about someone. And maybe you're like, oh, but I have to go listen to like 4 1-hour episodes or watch these YouTube videos. And that's fine. I still think that's valid research, but you don't need to do that from the start. Like before they've even said yes. There's this layer of, okay, I just need to make sure they're a good fit for me. So that this doesn't happen and you get on a call and they suck and they're not the person or you suck and it's just not a good fit all around. Like we should never be in that situation where you're awkwardly having to tell someone, I don't think you're a good fit because I didn't do the research.
Literally. And it's funny. I actually think like, because I am also a guest on podcasts a lot, I always listen. I do my best to, not always, but I try really hard to listen to at least like half an episode to an episode. If it's not a podcast I frequently listen to, if I'm a guest, to get like the cadence and just like, that's my way of doing my research. But I feel like as a guest, could I use this as a guest to like see what the host typically talks about so that I feel more prepared? Because I know a lot of like my clients, and if it's a no, that's fine. But like, I feel like my speaking clients sometimes get nervous. And so I think that would be a way to kind of set that at ease.
The way it's set up right now, not necessarily. You could basically use it to revisit that host. Like
That's
if
what
you
I
were
mean. Like, could you put in their name, like the host name, and see like what they're all about?
Yeah. So like it pulls signature topics.
Yes.
So it'll pull those for you. So like if I put my name in, it shares like, okay, Haylee talks a lot about the podcast power cycle, which is like a repurposing concept that I talk about. But then like leveraging your podcast for business is another topic, but then it goes into detail on like what that's about. So
yeah, see, that's what I love.
Yes.
Because like I want to know that on both sides. I want to know that as a host when I have people in, and I also want to know that when I'm talking to, because like you don't always know who you're podcasting with, is where I'm trying to go with this. And it's like, it does make it nice to be able to come in with some knowledge about them that you didn't have to dig for.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the other piece of it is, you had mentioned listening to podcast episodes that they do. Yeah. And one thing that I could always tell like who your listeners of your show were that became guests, because you'd get, this was like, so here's the thing. Yeah. You'd get to the unpopular opinion and they'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for this question. Like you knew who the listeners were. Yeah. But those are also like loyal listeners. I do think like you'll see things in podcast episodes as a guest. If you're listening to it, you can pre-plan. And like, I do want to highlight this too, of I, as a consumer and a podcast editor, cannot stand, like I I feel like I'm about to contradict myself. I love the podcast like outlines or questions sent, but I cannot stand a rehearsed answer.
No, I get that. That's not a contradiction. I totally get it. I don't want to listen to a robot reading. If I did, I would just go read it or like put it in Google or something, have the audiobook it.
Yes. And so part of what I've put into the custom GPT is it will develop all these questions for you, but it also develops an outline. So you can just send the outline of, here's the primary topics we're talking about in today's interview. And I'm not giving you the questions. You're just knowing the topics of each question. So then they can't really prepare, but they, if they're coming on your show, there's only so much they can prepare. Like their brain has to know what they know.
Yeah. Okay. So I know that you kind of like launched this very recently and then you closed up shop. Can people grab it? Because they should, if they're like, can we give the people access, like special?
I think we could give your listeners access. You cannot find this as of the day of recording, probably the day it airs. It's not going to be available to like go and find on my website, but I will be giving Laylee a link so that just these listeners can get access to it. And the reason I did that was I had launched it as like a beta of, I want people to test it. I want people to use it and, tweak it to where it's the best. And I think I've gotten it pretty well to where it should be. And now
I've seen it. I think it's great as it is, but I also love that. Let's point out you're being a responsible educator, and I'm very proud of that.
Thank you. And I think long-term it will be a product that lives out there, but
right now just us.
Yes.
Exclusive, y'all.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. We will link that in the show notes for everybody. So make sure you pop over there, podcast hosts and podcast guests too. Like I truly think it's such a cool thing that you've created. And I mean, it blows my mind because I feel like I sound really like I'm joking or self-deprecating, but I straight up don't understand AI. So like good for you, girl. Cause this is what people like me need.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we do a rapid fire to wrap the because I just like have been really enjoying ending. I used to end So Here's the Thing, as you mentioned, with unpopular opinion, but now I want to do like personal/business rapid fire really fast. Are you down?
Okay.
Okay, I didn't prepare anything, so we're just gonna go.
Cool.
Okay. All right. What's your favorite show right now?
Oh, that's hard. Because I'm like a okay,
You're
no,
a
that's not hard.
rewatcher. You're a
I'm a
rewatcher like
rewatcher.
me. Okay, what are you rewatching?
Well, I'll start with that and then I'll tell you the actual like
Okay,
favorite. So I just finished Gilmore Girls for the 12,000th time.
Yeah.
And then I just restarted Younger. Did you ever watch that?
I did watch Younger. I've watched it twice.
Yeah. So I watched it when it was airing on TV Land back in the day. Back in the day, it was like 10 years ago. But so I watched it then, still as obsessed with it. I loved it the second time around.
I did too.
But the one that I just knew and I freaking loved it was Chad Powers. I laughed so hard through this entire show.
Okay.
It's so funny.
What is it about?
So it's inspired by Eli Manning when he went in disguise and like went to tryouts or something. I don't remember what it was exactly, but this washed up NFL player who like ruined his career years ago decides he's going to go back into the NFL and try out, but he goes in as someone new in a disguise.
I wrote it down because that sounds fun and funny. My new show this show I just binge watched is Heated Rivalry. If you know, you know, and if you don't, you don't. I loved it. Like unexpectedly obsessed. So
it pops up every time I log into that streaming platform.
Any Heated Rivalry girlies, like it's for the girlies and the gays, and y'all need to tell me if you watched it. Tim watched it too, and he liked some of it, so it was good. But yeah, obsessed. Okay, what is your okay, so that was a personal question. Professional question. What is your like spicy hot take on new podcast hosts? Like what's something you're seeing that you're like, whoa, hold up?
People thinking that they can get away with a Blue Yeti.
You hate the Blue Yeti. She
hates
the Blue Yeti, y'all. We'll link her. Haylee has a whole list. I have what I use, but Haylee has a whole list of resources. We'll link you guys up to.
It's updated too. It has samples of audio with the microphones.
I'm gonna listen to that because I actually kind of want to upgrade. Although mine is fine, I think.
Yeah,
I love new toys. You know. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Rapid fire number 3. What is a social media trend that you love and one that you hate?
We'll start with hate, rage bait. Oh my gosh. I'm getting so irritated. I didn't know there was a name for it.
I already rage enough.
I didn't know there was a name for it. And I was like describing it to someone the other day of like the types of content I hate. And they were like, oh, rage bait. And I was like,
hate it.
What? So hate that. I'm really enjoying Threads. I don't know that there's a particular trend that I'm enjoying, but I feel like it's a very nice space over there.
Like, it's nice because you are nice and you got yourself on the nice side of Threads. So maybe the trend is just like acting like what you want to see.
Maybe that's it. I don't know.
I've seen the ugly side of Threads and I was like, get me out of here. I'm in the nice side now.
Yeah. Be careful what you click on though, because I've clicked on like the stupid videos that are like slicing of sand. I don't know if you've ever
I have
your whole one video, your entire feed will be
it's over then. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
100%. All right. And then last rapid fire question for you is what's something you're really looking forward to in 2026?
Ooh, business wise, I've kind of restructured a lot of things and then burned them to the ground and restructured again and burned it to the ground. And after building out what I thought was going to be this really huge thing, I think I'm ready to burn it to the ground. And I think that's okay.
Wow.
So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Personal, we have quite a few trips planned this year. Last year we did not travel as much. And this year I'm looking forward to getting back into personal travel.
Awesome. Yeah, you travel a lot for work, so this should be fun.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming back on the show and letting me spill the tea and like just, yapping with me about this crazy thing that happened. I hope it was helpful to y'all who are listening because it just protect your reputation, protect your relationships, do your job.
Yeah. Thank you for having this conversation. I do think it's hard to like have them where you're not just like poo-pooing on somebody.
Yeah.
But also there needs to be lessons learned in every issue. And if you have the space to do it, and it makes sense for your audience. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thanks for having me and letting me talk about it.
Absolutely. Okay. And I can't wait to see you in just a couple months at the conference. If y'all are coming to the Creative Educator Conference, Haylee will be there. She's amazing and she can help you with all things podcast related. All right, y'all. See you guys next week.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Laylee Amati podcast. If you found value in today's episode, it would mean the world if you would leave a review or share it with a friend who's on their journey to becoming an industry educator or speaker. Want more support as you grow? Head to layleeamati.com for free resources and more information on how we can work together. Until next time, keep showing up, keep sharing your voice, and keep leading with purpose.